Welcome back, guys. I'm at a complete loss for words. There is nothing that I could say that could pay homage to the performance that we just seen. So before we do go on, I just have to give a shout out to those incredible performers. Crystal Method, Wes Borland, Danny Lower, Tina Guo, Joe Letts, and of course, the Hollywood Scoring Orchestra. As we reset the stage and get it ready for the World Final, I would like to welcome Sam, Kobe, Hartman-Kensler to the analyst desk for the second half of our pregame coverage. And while the four of these guys have been giving us their educated insight throughout the championship tournament, they're not the only pros with an opinion on tonight's World Final.
So guys, we're going to jump into this one. First of all, I want to know a little bit more about the game itself. Like, where are the strengths and weaknesses of SK Telecom and Royal Club in this one? Where's this game going to be won and lost?
I think one of the big things that everyone's going to talk about is Faker. Like Faker in the mid lane, how that matchup's going to go. But the only thing is we saw White completely destroy Peke in lane. So White can probably actually hold up his own against Faker in lane. It's going to be really, there's going to be some key champions where they're going to have to like bounce back and forth between each other in the picks and ban phase, which will be integral.
I think the bottom lane for SKT is going to be a pretty big factor going into their match against Najin Blacksword. Pregame, one of the most praised bottom lanes in the world, seemed to just got dominated by Piglet and Pumandu. Going into the matchup against Tabe and Uzi, Tabe is not known for being a strong laner as support. He could very easily give up kills to Piglet and Pumandu. So I think that if SKT forces 2v2, they could potentially get ahead with their AD carry and support in the lane.
I think another important thing will be the jungle pressure, because in the Najin Sword versus SKT game, Watch would come up to snowball Expression a lot of the times, and that would make a big difference in him applying a lot of pressure top lane. So I'm really interested to see how Lucky and Bengi will match up, because they can apply pressure to lanes and cause other lanes to win.
Okay, so let's move into picks and bans then. There are a lot of champions in this matchup that are going to be highly contested. Where's your pick for this one? We saw Whites, for example, playing a brilliant Orianna until it got banned out. We know how strong Faker is throughout many different champions. Where's the area to focus for these teams?
For me personally, like we could see the Annie being banned. I'm not entirely sure if it will or not. But mid lane especially, I think the Orianna Gragas are going to be very key picks. Because Gragas is really well against Orianna. Are they going to leave the Gragas open or not?
Going into the mid lane, I think purple side must ban Orianna. Faker's main champion coming into the OGN was Orianna. That was what he was known for. He has the most games on this champion, is a highly skilled mid laner, and Orianna is just too strong at this moment. So I think that that's going to have to be banned by every team that's on purple side. You just cannot let it through, and it will be first pick. There is no other priority at this point.
Yeah, another thing we can look at is just the top lane. Because in this tournament, we've seen Renekton as coming out as like the superstar pick for top lane. He doesn't really have any counters in the current meta that you're using. And it's been banned or first picked in many of the games, especially in China as well, so RYL really wants it. The question is though, how is SKT going to handle it? Because if they, let's say Shen is banned and they go for the Renekton, then what's SKT going to go against it? If they go Jax, they'll get destroyed. And that's pretty much their champion pool for top lane, those three. So the question is, what are they going to do at top lane? They're going to leave everything open, they're going to ban two of them, like, what are they going to do?
So let's get down to the key people in this one rather than the champions. Like, who's going to be the man to watch for you?
For me, it's White against Faker. I think there's so much in these mid lanes. I think it's definitely going to be down to those two.
I definitely think it's about if the bot lanes get to 2v2, Pumandu will outperform and Tapper and therefore snowball Piglet and give a huge advantage to SKT. If they do get to 2v1 and Tapper gets his Annie or his Sona, he can do the engages, he can be the big playmaker and the MVP.
I think it's not going to be one person in specific, one role. I definitely think it has to do with the jungle and support, because the way I see it, whoever gets the better wards level 1 is going to be the support that has the edge, and then after that, it's going to be up to the jungler to take advantage of their vision edge and win the game. One of these teams is going to be looking for 1v2s. If they get 1v2'd, it's completely up to the jungler to snowball the game faster than the other jungler. So I think Bengi and Lucky are going to be the players to watch for, and whoever can outperform the other one, especially in a 1v2 game, will win the game.
Well, let's talk about winning the game then. Who's going to win it?
3-2 Royal.
3-1 for RYL.
3-1 Royal.
3-0 RYL.
So, everybody for RYL. That kind of surprised me a little bit. Everyone's for RYL in this one.
What about you?
I don't have an opinion. I'm an unbiased commentator. Wow. Someone's going to get 3 games and win season 3.
Unbiased.
There's two things I learned from that video. Number one, the impartial, unbiased Joe Miller wears short pants underneath the desk. And number two, everybody picked RYL, which is a little, surprising then. We've already talked a bit about how SKT and RYL Club have performed here at Worlds. I want to take it a step back and look at the very different paths that these two teams had coming into the Season 3 World Championships. Doublelift, talk to me about RYL.
Yeah, so while everyone kind of knows Tabe as the team captain of RYL, he actually has a long history with White. They've been together since they were on the roster of OMG, the team they had to beat to get to the finals. At that time, White wasn't really considered a very good player, though, so they had to kick him. But because they're friends, Tabe was like, I'm out too. And at that point, White went to RYL, and Tabe actually retired. And he only came out of retirement because on the condition that he would be the captain and shot caller of RYL. Everyone had to listen to him. And obviously, since then, they've been doing really well. They were 5th place in the spring season, and now they're the best team in China. And people know Tabe is going to retire after this match, whether he wins or loses. But you might not know that White is also quitting.
He's trying to, walk into the sunset with, a summoner's cup above his head.
Yep.
The only people that can stop him would be SK Telecom T1. And Monty, talk to us a little bit about the history, because they're quite a young team.
Yeah, they're young. They're very new. They debuted this year in April in Champion Spring, and in their first tournament, they took 3rd place. Only Pumandu and Impact were previously involved in the professional scene. That means the other guys were picked up from amateur teams or solo queue. And so they had this strong laning phase from their immensely strong solo queue backgrounds, but they had some problems with their rotations. They had some problems with their team fighting, and yet, based on the strength of their lanes, they took 3rd place. Now, fast forward to Champion Summer, and they took the entire title, and they looked incredibly dominant when they did it. And this is a team that doesn't really appear to have too many jitters. They usually start out slow in a series. We've seen that here at Worlds again, where they lose 1 or 2 games early on, but their comeback potential is actually huge. And in a best-of scenario, there is only one team they have ever lost to, and that is Ozone.
Now, talk to me about some of the nerves that we've seen just very quickly. Faker was quite nervous in the Najin Sword, best of 5. It went all the way. And that was a game that many of us actually thought was going to be fairly one-sided. We did feel that SKT was that. What do you think it was more, picks and bans, or do you think it was the nerves of the players?
I think I was surprised by how good Nagne was on Gragas, and I think Faker was probably pretty surprised too. So we'll have to see if those nerves come back, but generally he gets the job done.
Well, we are getting closer to the very first game of the World Final. We're going to throw it down to Joe, who's hanging out on the floor of the Staples Center.
Thanks a lot, guys. I'm down here on the floor with none other than Cursor's Voyboy, and just to get a few thoughts before we actually get into the game. First of all, Voyboy, where is this game going to be won and lost? What are the key factors in this matchup?
Yeah, so no doubt. These are the 2 best teams in the world right now. I think everyone loves to praise Faker and Uzi for their stellar play. I think on each team, these are probably the best 2 players, and everyone's expecting them to make really great plays and carry the game. But I actually think that both these players are going to meet their match on the opposing team. I think White has had a stellar run through this tournament, and I think his champion pool is perfect to fight up against Faker. He plays Gragas, he plays Vladimir, he plays Kale. The perfect counters to Faker's champion pool. So I actually expect that lane to go relatively even. And then Piglet and Pumandu, they demolished Najin Black's sword. So versus Uzi and Tabe, I actually think they're going to give them a run for their money. So I really think, looking at all these even lanes, the game's actually going to be decided by the jungle pressure. Bengi versus Lucky. Bengi has had an amazing run through this tournament. His Lee Sin is absolute ban-worthy in my opinion, and I really think that the game's going to be decided by Bengi out-pressuring Lucky and just trying to snowball one of those 2 very important lanes.
So while we're on the topic of bans, let's talk about them. There are some champions that you just have to ban against some of these players. Some you can maybe think about letting through. Where are the key bans going to be in this best of 5, in the first game, of course?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are so many impactful champions. I definitely don't think that they're going to be giving Tabe Annie. I think that's a champion that he's had the most comfort on. He's made the most plays, 4 or 5-man ultimates, just making plays for his team. I think Bengi's Lee Sin, you definitely have to deny him that. And then there's just a wide array of Faker's champion pool. I actually think that the only champion that White is going to care about is getting rid of Faker's Zed. I actually think every other assassin and carry champion that Faker plays, he's going to have an answer to that. And then, of course, Orianna, who has been just ridiculously strong in this tournament. I honestly don't expect that champion to go through to either team.
So let's get down to it then. Who's going to win? What's the score going to be?
Oh, my God. Either way, this is going to be an amazing run, an amazing series. These are the 2 best teams in the world. I'm expecting some ridiculously close games. I think in a five-game series, I think SKT is going to take it.
Well, thank you very much, Voyboy, for joining us here. Great to have your insight on that one. We're going to continue with the show. We're getting closer to game time, so let's get back up to Quickshow and the guys.
Thank you very much, Joe and Voyboy. And as I'm about to force you guys to lock in your predictions for who's going to win this matchup. Before we do, though, I need to ask Kobe to explain something that was quite interesting about the coin flip. SKT won it, but it didn't play out the way we expected.
Okay, so first of all, because they won the coin flip, they get to choose which side they're on for games 1, 3, and 5, the odd-numbered games. And they actually chose to go red side for game 1, but blue side for games 3 and 5. Meaning they have something tricky up their sleeves for that first game that a lot of times they do drop.
And something that also happened is RYL picked red side for their game 1. So
exactly,
you know, each of them picking for that right one. And like I said, it is time for you to make your predictions for tonight's World Final. Before we put you on the spot, let's check out how those standings look. Because Double Lift boldly picked RYL Club to beat Fnatic. He's now tied with Monte Cristo for first place. Monte and Double Lift control their own destiny. And if they choose the victor, they earn at least a tie for first place. If, however, Monte and Double Lift disagree on their pick once more, the one who chooses correctly wins that all-important title. Now that we know scenarios, it is time for you to lock in your picks. Who will win the Season 3 World Championship, SK Telecom T1 or RYL Club?
Oh, well,
I
you know my
who.
pick. All aboard the Korean hype train, SK Telecom T1 for the championship. Hands down, I've got my tickets here. I got tickets to the Korean hype train, and I will be giving them out. It's your last chance. First class still available, Crepo. Here, let me go ahead. I'll go ahead and punch this for you. There you go.
Thank you, Monty. I appreciate your SKT favorite, but I think it's more time for a Revolution.
Well, Crepo. It's okay. I will save some room in baggage for you, which is probably the appropriate place because you're dead weight anyway.
I'll keep these pieces so you can wipe your tears after the matches. Anyways, I'm going for RYL. I've seen Uzi do ridiculous plays. I know White's been playing really well. And yeah, it's going to be close, guys, but just to mess up with Monty, I'm going to go for RYL for sure. RYL all the way.
All right, Double Lift. I know you want to be on the Korean hype train. Let's go.
Follow you,
about
Coach.
SK
I'm thinking about it. Thanks, Coach. No thanks. I'm going with RYL. My brain says SKT, but I got that Chinese pride. I'm friends with Tabe. RYL's gonna win.
I'm friends with Tabe. That's your basis
That's all
of
right.
voting.
It's all right. You may not ride the Korean hype train, but I'll just have you ride the bench next season.
I'm
so
wow,
sad.
I didn't see that one coming. That's harsh. I'm scared now.
All right, Kobe.
And you know what? Did you make these yourselves? They look pretty good, actually.
Do they?
Yeah,
I'm glad you like it. It's a nice train, too.
It's a pretty nice ticket you
Good
got
service.
here. I'm going to have to go ahead and choose RYL as well. I like the underdogs here. I feel like they're going to complete their raise the puppy strategy and derail this hype train.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't think puppies derail trains. I think we know what happened when puppies get in the way of trains.
Oh!
Now you're getting graphic.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Double Lift, you have chosen RYL. Monty has chosen SKT, which means whoever picked right is taking home the Analyst Desk World Champion Cup. Now, that does it for the World Championship pre-game show. Before we head to the stage for the starting lineups, here's an action-packed look at some of the pros who fought for a shot at the Season 3 title.
and gentlemen, it's time for the Season 3 League of Legends World Championship Final between Korea's SK Telecom T1 and China's RYL Club. Starting on the blue side for Game 1 of this best-of-5 series, with a Season 3 World Championship record of 5 wins and 1 loss, it's China's regional tournament champions, RYL Club. In the top lane, Godlike. In the jungle, Lucky. In mid, White. At AD carry, Uzi. And starting at support, RYL Club's captain, Tabe. This is RYL Club. And starting on the red side for Game 1 with a Season 3 World Championship record of 12 wins and 3 losses, the winners of Korea's Champions Summer 2013, SK Telecom T1. In the top lane, Impact. In the jungle, Bengi. In mid, Faker. At AD carry, Piglet. And at support, Pumandu. This is SK Telecom T1.
Welcome back to the caster desk here at the Staples Center. It is time for the players to take to the rift for round 1 of tonight's World Final. And while many picked SKT as the pre-tournament favorite to be in tonight's final, RYL Club has taken out 2 heavily favored teams to make it here to the Staples Center and impress their experts along the way.
Yeah, and RYL Club has been getting better throughout Season 3, guys. They actually took 5th place in the LPL Spring over in China. Then, during the regular season in the summer, they finished 2nd. Now, they're the best team in China with a chance of becoming the best team in the world.
And now, RYL Club faces what their captain Tabe called the Korean monster in SK Telecom T1.
Absolutely. SK Telecom T1, coming into this tournament, were considered the best team in Korea. And they've proved it thus far by making it to the finals and also taking out fellow Korean team Najin Black Sword in the process.
Yeah, and while Faker and SKT were well practiced at winning here at Worlds, White and RYL Club are confident that all their research will pay off in tonight's mid lane matchup.
就分析他们以前比赛的录像，然后我们或许会有一些新的英雄、新的套路去跟他们对打。就好像我在打 OMG 的时候，我用了一个很少人用的吸血鬼中单，然后我在打 Fnatic 的时候也用了很少人用的天使。或许我们会有一个更加少人用的英雄去对抗他们。其实准备的话也没有说很特别的准备，因为到了这决赛，我们唯一要做的就是把自己的心态放平常心，就不要给自己太多的压力，就尽量轻松去应对这个比赛，会比任何战术都有用。
일단 지금 여기 와서 연습을 한국 때보다 더 많이 하는데 그만큼 노력을 많이 하고 있어서 지금 이대로만 하면 될 것 같아요.
So the pressure is on these teams. Both have been practicing harder than before. And of course, we'd like to welcome to the desk now. We have Ninjas in Pajamas Deficio joining us. He's going to be helping us break down the picks and bans throughout the World Final. And what a World Final it's going to be. Yeah. So let's get straight down to it, because we heard Kobe touching on it earlier. There was a coin flip earlier on, and unusually, SKT chose to begin with the red side.
Yeah, and that shows to me that SK want to put Fake in the best position they can in the first game. SKT is normally a very slow team to start. They often lose their very first game in a series, and it can maybe be something with Faker having nerves. I'm not sure what it is. But now they will have the chance to last pick mid lane for him, which will set him up in a perfect situation. At the same time, they will be able to possibly ban out 2 of Tabby's champions, both Annie and Sona, which are the 2 main engages on RYL, and they always want Tabby to do the engages. If they can manage to ban those 2, and at the same time manage to get one of the strong picks in either Renekton or Orianna, they will be in a very good position.
Yeah, and it was really strange when we were going through the picks and bans trying to predict what would happen, because we were thinking that SK Telecom actually wasn't that strong if they were picking on the red side, because if we look at RYL's champion pools, if they want to main Renekton and Orianna and Elise in those key roles, and even the Caitlyn for the AD carry on Uzi, their roles are very defined. So they're very clear tier 1 champions they want to pick. Whereas SK Telecom is a little bit more generalist. And because of all the power bans we've been seeing at the World Championships, like the Orianna bans, or even the Gragas bans that SK Telecom had to default to, or Shen, Zed, all those things, it was almost too much for SKT to ban, which means if they actually picked red side, as Deficio said, we're going to see something different from SKT because they have figured out some way around that. And I think it's by leaving a lot of the considered OP champions that have been getting banned all tournament and letting them get picked so they can get some on the backside.
Yeah, and we should go into really the way that we get around this. I mean, it's effectively what the teams have to do. You guys were discussing it when you were doing it. It's like, well, this is what we did for like 5 hours for the EU regionals. Didn't work out for you. Sorry to bring that up. But basically what it is simply you go through the entire champion pool of all of the players, figure out what is the best ban strategy. That's what these guys have with the analysts to do, and it's exactly what we've had to do. And it's interesting to see the disadvantages and advantages that can be gained from just one ban.
Yeah, and just to go into that, if we look at the 2 top laners in this matchup, Godlike versus Impact, their 3 main champions have been Shen, Renekton, and Jax. And it's weird because it's almost like a rock, paper, scissors between those 2. If you pick Shen, we've seen Jax do very well against him. But if you pick Renekton, we see him beat Jax very, very handily. And we also see a lot of Shen bans, Deficio.
Oh yeah, there's high chance of Shen bans here, especially also because both teams actually seem to have their own little counter to something like Renekton. We have in the past seen RYL play Nessus against it, so we might actually see a surprise pick here. Or we can maybe on the other hand see a Singed from SKT versus the Renekton. So maybe they will even let this one open and see if they can like counter it with one of their more like unusual picks. But I will actually expect to see Renekton banned, especially in the first game.
And how much would you expect teams they both want to figure out what each other are going to play, obviously. How much it's not a throwaway, but is that first game one where you can say, let's try this and feel out how they're playing? Do teams do that, or do you really want that first win for the momentum?
I think specifically in game 1 for this series, SKT is really playing hard for that first win. I think that's the big reason they picked the red side, is because they're not really trying to feel anything out. If they were trying to feel stuff out, they would be going blue side, which is their more comfortable champions. They would get a very standard lineup that they've been running throughout the World Championships, and they're just not going to have that on red side. So this is kind of the SKT coaching staff taking a bit of a gamble, because it's clearly a one-game strategy thing that they've picked, since they decided to go blue side in their other 2 side choices, but only red side for that first game.
And this is actually the first time that SKT have had a full week to prepare, which is effectively falling in to their champion's style, which, well, they won the last tournament. Is this giving them an advantage over RYL now? Because RYL's obviously into that standard LPL style, which is effectively the same as the LCS that you guys watch at home in North America and Europe.
I'm not sure if it's too much of an advantage in that way. Obviously, they have a lot to prepare, but if you look at the champions these guys play, I actually think RYL will have the edge in most pick and ban phases, especially because everyone on RYL has his signature champion in a way. Tabe has his Annie, White has his Fizz. You don't really want to go up against these, but at the same time, you don't have enough bans to ban them out. So even though SKT has been having a week now to prepare, they've probably been using them to think about counters to these. Whenever they will work for them, we will see, and whenever they're going to pick them. SKT is normally a team who picks the same champions. They stick to them through the whole series, and they might be doing the same here.
Yeah, and to even go into it a little farther, as we're about to get into the pick and ban here, RYL is much more counter-pick focused than SKT, even though in Korea, SKT was a laning-focused team. But RYL, if we look at their laning success over Fnatic, was even more so. Specifically, Uzi averaged 32.5 more minion kills per game than Pushu did at the 10-minute mark across the entire semifinals, which is completely unheard of. And Caitlyn is going to be an incredibly contested pick in that bottom lane, we think, because it wasn't necessarily a contested pick in the semifinals, because the AD carries that both Piglet and Uzi were going against weren't big Caitlyn players. But the fact that both of these guys are, and that they both love playing Vayne as well, it's very difficult to play a Vayne into a Caitlyn lane. So that's going to be a really big back and forth in this one.
And let's talk about the bottom lane, of course. You've talked about the ADs. Let's talk about the supports, because these guys don't really clash in what they use. They use completely different champions.
Yeah, it's actually very strange to look, because they have completely different champion pools and completely different play style. Pumandu is more the peeling support or the counter engage, and he's helping his AD carry, where Tabe is he's the engager. Like, he is simply the engager. And that's why he also likes to play the Annie, and that's why he likes the Sona. it's pretty fun for me as a support to see also like the difference in these, because I'm more like a Puma Do style of player, where I like enjoy peeling from AD carry, enjoy going like heavy CC team fights, counter engage like Syra, like which Puma Do really likes, and we will maybe see even ban this game. But it's fun to see the difference in the support and their play styles.
Yeah, and just to finish off on that, the support pool from Tabe does seem attackable if SKT decides to go for it, because in the compositions we saw that RYL was successful with, and the one game they lost so far at the World Championship, the one game they lost is when they did not have reliable initiation. Especially since Lucky from the jungle likes bringing Elise, it's somewhat hit or miss, and unless they have the Annie or the Sona to completely lock people down, since it's such an assassin-based mid laner they run with White so often, it won't be reliable. And that is our prediction, actually, or my prediction for what I think are going to be the bans. I think Annie and Sona are going down.
All right, we'll see exactly what happens. We do have a short delay, unfortunately, on stage as they are resetting one of the computers. So while we wait, we're going to send it over to Quickshot and the guys at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, D-Man. And one thing I just want to summarize from what we've seen thus far in terms of all of the analyst picks favoring RYL, a lot of emphasis is placed on this pick and ban phase. We may not have the longest time. So, Kobe, do you want to share your thoughts on why you picked RYL?
Yeah, actually, I want to go off more on that support talk that they were just having there. The reason I really like RYL is because they put very powerful initiation tools in the hands of their shot caller. That's the reason Annie's so important to them, is because Tabe is the shot caller. As Double has said in the history of the team, the only reason he joined the team was because he has undisputed control over all the calls in the game. And when your shot caller is the one with those initiation tools and the hard stuns, then you don't miss that split second in the team fights. And that's part of the reason why their team fights are so clean, because they can always rely on Uzi to have that consistent damage in the mid game.
And I think it's kind of unfair to say that Tabe is a two-trick pony, Annie and Sona. I think that he just prefers those two champions, but we've seen him, like, he plays Cassiopeia support, he plays everything. This guy is really versatile. He's going to pull out something if you try to ban him out.
Well, we'll have to see how it works out. As I mentioned, it was a very short segment here. We're going to throw it back to the guys at the desk as everything does appear to be ready. And let's see how the picks and bans go for the first game in the final.
Thank you very much, Quickshot. And as he just said, we are about to get into the game. So, bans, before we get into it, what are we expecting? Putting you guys on the spot.
All right, I would like to see a Renekton ban and an Orianna ban. Those two. And then I would love to see an Annie ban as well, simply to show some respect for Tabe and the way he's engaging.
Yeah, this is totally throwing it out there. I think SKT's bans, if they're red side, are going to be Annie, Sona, and Zed. And I think that Shen and Orianna are going to be let through. Going to be wrong.
Well, we will see, ladies and gentlemen, because the first game of the World Final is about to get underway. There are the picks and bans. Let's see how this goes. Wasn't expecting that for a first ban. Vi, Zed, almost certain. The Ninja's got to go out the window. There goes Shen.
There we go. Expected bans so far for SKT, both Zed and Annie is gone. Will this one be the last ban? That's going to be the question.
The surprise ban for me here so far from RYL is the fact that they've banned out Vi, considering Bengi tunneled so hard on Lee Sin in the semifinals against Najin Blacksword. He played it 4 out of 5 games, and in one of those games it was picked away from him.
So, we talked about this when we were sorting out. Does this mean that Gragas may well be one of those picks? Because Vi is a good counter.
Definitely. And now Gragas is open, and he's open for both teams to pick. That means if Orianna is open as well now, if she gets instant lock, there is the possibility of the counter with Gragas.
That is really surprising to me that RYL was able to get Orianna. I think whether the Renekton or the Orianna got through, they're happy with it, because I think with the double jungle ban, attacking Bengi actually, who some people think is the strength of SKT, they almost let SKT run out of bans, which is what I thought was going to happen when they're sitting on the red side.
Well, we do see Elise was hovered over there. Lucky has pretty much only played Elise, so we'll see whether they try and take that away. At the moment, though, Pickley is hanging over that Corki. Corki has been so big throughout this tournament.
Oh, definitely. And Corki is right now, with Caitlyn, probably the 2 strongest AD carries, so that's definitely one of the reasons they want to secure that pick. At the same time, they don't have to pick the Elise already, because they should actually, in my opinion, pick the Elise, because RYL is such a huge fan of Elise, and taking that, they will take it away from Lucky and take him out of his comfort zone.
Here's the interesting thing, though, is before the World Championships, both of these guys made the Jarvan. So with the Vi ban and the Lee Sin ban, Bengi had a choice of going with an Elise, which he wasn't comfortable with, or I think going with the Jarvan. And the Elise for RYL is right in their wheelhouse. These are all things that they're expected to get. What is really curious to me now for RYL, since we talked about the trinity of top laners being Shen, Renekton, and Jax, do we just see a Jax, or is that too dangerous, knowing that Impact could pull out a Kennen or something against it? This is extremely interesting now.
Yeah, I definitely think SKT is actually ready for the Jax pick because they have Singed, and Singed is very good versus Jax. So they will keep maybe this pick down for the top lane and maybe just pick their mid lane, and now could be the Gragas, could even be an Ahri, and then simply keep the top lane as the last pick where they can have like a Singed coming in versus a Jax.
I really like the fact that RYL was able to lock down Sona. I think that guarantees their initiation, and it combos extremely well with their lane dominance coming from Orianna. This is exactly what RYL wanted that got them here, and I'm really wondering to see what SKT does with these next 2 picks.
Yeah, I feel SKT is playing a little bit with fire right now. They're simply giving all the picks RYL want right now, but they are obviously aware of this, and they have something in mind for it. If they log in this fresh, they'll have a fresh Corgi lane. That is such a strong lane for 2v2, even 2v1 potential. They have so much dive, they have so much even like peel for Corgi just with the fresh. Oh, there's the Jax side, sorry. Very strong top laner. We talked about the top 3 for the top lane, and now they have the Jax. So they're going to be happy.
And knowing that there was no Caitlyn, Uzi was safe to go Vayne against Corgi. Safe-ish. It's still not the best lane matchup, but they can do a lot of 2v1s. And I need to see now what the top laner for RYL is. We thought maybe Nasus. We thought maybe Rumble. Singed is kind of an outside pick for him, but the top 3 are down. Whatever he plays here, he's played once or less in the World Championship. So the last pick here, RYL, getting to pick what they lane against either the Thresh Corki or the Jax, depending if they 1v2 or 2v1. And I think it's extremely critical for their team comp here.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that would actually be a very good pick out if they want to go for the 2v1. He can even hold his lane in 1v1 versus Jax. He's going to get out-farmed and pressured, but he can at least hold the lane.
But at the very least, this wouldn't necessarily work for RYL's overall lane pressure. It would work for their quick tower dive. So they're going to be grouping up really early in this one.
And right now, RYL has an insane teamfight engage. I think it's simply, if they just get slightly ahead, or do we see the Gragas, as we talked about, as the counter pick for Orianna?
Yeah, but we thought it was going to be the other way around. We thought Whites was going to play Gragas against Faker's Orianna, and now we see the switch up.
I guess here we have the reason for SKT picking red side in game 1.
Oh man, so yeah, I see RYL's composition obviously being extremely hard initiation focused with the hyper carry and Uzi. Godlike needs to escape the laning phase, whether he 1v1s or 2v1s, or 1v2, sorry. And I think Whites is going to look to dominate with the lane. If he does not beat Faker, I don't think RYL has the ability to group up and push for this game.
Well, when I see this combo here from SKT though, what I really love about it is the fact they can disengage so hard. Jarvan has his jump, Jax has his jump, Gragas has his body slam, Corgi has his jump, and they have a lantern as well on Fresh. They have so many disengage abilities. They can simply pick the fight. If they dislike the way they get engaged on, Gragas can throw his bell, shoot people back, and they can disengage.
So it's an all-in versus an all-out, basically, is what you're saying. Everybody's going to pile in. We know that RYL are all about those fights. So thank you very much, Deficio, for joining us for that. We'll be seeing you in Game 2 shortly. And, of course, we are about to get underway. But first game of the World Finals will be starting very soon. But let's see who you guys at home think is going to take home the Summoners Cup. According to LoLesports.com, 57% of you think SK Telecom T1 will be winning Season 3 World Championships.
Yeah, we saw Monty was the only one on the desk there, on his train.
He's got a lot of tickets to punch for
lone
everyone
conductor,
else.
you know, you go down with whatever happens, or you go through and you're the lone victor. But this is interesting. I think SKT is still the slight favorite, but as we could tell by the crowd earlier, RYL does have the crowd behind them.
Something I really liked about this is, if you think back to the Fnatic versus RYL game when Fnatic got beat, or RYL got beat out by 20-some kills, they didn't have the initiation team. They had nothing to go in on. Now that they've been put on the backside of what SKT feels they put them on, RYL did get an initiation team.
Yeah, they got the initiation now. Malphite is an unstoppable force, some would say.
You could say that.
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The Summoners Cup. That is what they're fighting for. RYL Club as the blue team, SK Telecom T1 as the red team, as Game 1 of the Season 3 World Final gets underway.
You know where we are. We are on the Rift. RYL now coming out from the blue. SKT on red side first, as they did win the coin toss. It is their choice. On that red side, we'll have to see as it goes. Level 1s have been ferocious throughout this entire tournament. Let's see if it happens again.
These teams just slam into each other, and SKT has more crowd control right now. They could get the death sentence from Thresh, and that could combo with a Counter-Strike stun from Impact's Jax, whereas RYL doesn't really have the same options. If RYL wants to fight, they need to get the jump on SKT, which is highly unlikely.
Remember, RYL last time went into that jungle against Fnatic. Fnatic were ready and waiting. It was a crazy engage, but nobody died. SKT are in a dangerous position to do the same.
SKT is right on top of a ward and they don't know it. So this could be RYL getting a jump on them if SKT walks in.
The game of cat and mouse is going to mean the ball's the impact. They're going to know a little bit too early, and they both have vision of the danger zone.
This always seems to happen in these games. 5 people run into each other at level 1. Everybody calm down. Back away to other sides. And yeah, that doesn't tell us much about level 1 other than the fact that the teams could actually not get their traditional wards down. So as far as scouting for 1v2 lane matchups, they have no knowledge. They do not know where the junglers are starting, and they do not know where the top laners and bottom laners are going.
So let's check out that mini-map. We can see what is developing. We do know that it's going to be a 2v1 in that top lane. Currently, we see Impact heading up there. He's going to be up against Uzi and Tabe from RYL Club, which of course means the bottom lane will be Piglet and Mandu up against Godlike. And you already said Malphite has an advantage 2v1.
It's a slight advantage, and I really need to see now if SKT can deal with the split lane game here, if they can get 3v1 Dove or if Bengi doesn't play this, because early on in the group stage of the World Championships, SKT was getting punished. Impact in particular was sticking around to get Dove 3v1. And if we look at the early jungle pathing of Lucky's Elise, he would be able to get his double buffs and transition directly into a top lane gank, but Bengi's jungle Jarvan is there to potentially counter if that happens.
And again, same thing they did against Fnatic. Godlike is holding the jungle with Lucky right now, soaking up the experience, knows he doesn't have to get to that bottom lane in 2 waves. It worked for him before. Godlike going at it again.
Yeah, and we're seeing Impact doing just like they've done with Jax's before, taking those golems, not even gone into that lane, not even caring about going into that lane. He knows he can't go up against Uzi and Tabe this early on.
And you can see the AD carries are very much about keeping the lane in the middle, which means that if the one person, whether it's Godlike or Impact, were to reach into that lane, he wouldn't even be able to get into experience range.
Already a lot of poke going down on Impact. Looks like he's finding every power chord that Tabe is putting out. If you can remember their matchup versus Soaz, they continuously glitter lanced him down. That's Tabe and Uzi's objective in that 2v1 is to crush it down.
Well, we see Mandu thinking of creating something, but they realize he's already missing from that bottom lane. Just creating those situations. Knows that Piglet is fine in a 1v1 up against Godlike and trying to help out Faker in that mid.
Yeah, and SKT, while they rely on Faker to carry, also heavily support and gank his lane. That's the reason the support was roaming up there, because they're not actually thinking of getting much harassed down onto Godlike. They're mainly looking to protect and create for Faker.
Lucky doing what he does best inside the jungle, trying to be a nuisance on those camps, and it looks like we're going to get something headed towards the top lane as Godlike's finding a bit of pressure on that bottom as well.
Yeah, the hook on Godlike, he's going to be able to walk away from this one, but we do see that 3v1. It's a 3v2 in the top lane. Pressure on them, but I don't think SKT are going to worry about it.
And here's the interesting thing. There's been a babysit up top with Bengi and Impact the entire time, whereas Godlike's been completely by himself. So Bengi is leeching a bit more experience and protecting Impact's health bar better than Godlike is getting protected, but experience and farm-wise, RYL has a very slight edge on top.
They're going to have to be very careful for Lucky here. He's soaking up a 3-person experience as Bengi is going to be getting ahead on this 2 lane, but they may take that tower down before anybody has time to think about it. Impact doing what he can in and out as the harass is just too much from just outside turret range.
Yeah, great condemn from Uzi, keeping him on that tower. Look in the mid lane now, look what is developing. Faker's already just been back to buy. He's kind of bullied out. White's pulling ahead massively.
And White's is generally unstoppable in the laning phase on Orianna. That's why it was getting banned away. And interestingly enough, the only games that Faker won in the semifinals were his 3 Orianna games. It's a huge priority pick for them, and because Bengi is stuck up here in the top lane babysitting Impact, that is a strict 1v1 in the mid lane, and Faker will continue to fall behind if they don't get help.
This is exactly what RYL needs to do. SKT, very well known for controlling the gameplay, the style and how it goes. RYL trying to take the driver's seat right away, taking that top lane down so they can rotate around. Godlike trying to stay safe, but they won't give him an inch.
Yeah, good death sentence from Mandu, but this is going to be the first turret of the game going down. We can see Impact has already backed away from this one. RYL Club have pushed it the whole time through, and they will take game 1 turret.
And here's the difference between RYL's ability to play this 3v2 laning game versus SKT's ability to 2v1. That turret's completely down, but it may not even get traded directly for the next turret. If we look at Godlike, he's got half a turret and then some, strictly holding 1v2, so now that we see Lucky rotating to the bot lane on Elise, this could be a 1 turret advantage that sticks around for a while for RYL Club.
Godlike looks like he will be relieved a bit of his pressure here, but it's going to be the rotation of that ADC lane. It looks like Lucky will be there as well when they activate that. So the chess pieces in motion for something to happen towards that bottom lane. Faker still going at it with Whites. Both have gone for the Dorans. Whites rather, going for the early magic resistance.
This is where it gets interesting. Faker is absolutely level 6, and Bengi's going to try to combo with the gank.
He goes in. Does he manage to knock him up? Yes, he does. Surely the shockwave comes in, but it does not matter. First blood, Faker.
Just execution right there by SKT, and Lucky, you're out of position.
Getting very close to being caught there. Like you said, Jat, they were just waiting for the right time. Level 6 hits instantly, and they didn't have time to think about it.
Whites didn't expect the gank to be that well timed. That was incredibly preemptive by Faker, and Bengi communicating that Faker would hit level 6 as the gank arrived. That's why it was able to catch Whites so far out of position.
So Bengi stealing away Lucky's farm. Lucky just holding out that lane. Not going to be too worried to get that middle farm, but that gives Faker right back into it. Gold advantage, they were so even on CS, but the fact that he's just got that first kill is going to be vital. And SKT looking to try and put some pressure in that middle, but it's the Dragon that may well start being the next objective.
And what's so huge about that kill in mid lane is it allowed Bengi time to ward the jungle of Lucky, which will directly impact that next Dragon fight if RYL looks to approach, or even if SKT just wants to sneak it, because they will have absolute knowledge of everywhere within RYL's jungle.
And that ward, or turret rather, going down does give vision, but it's almost like RYL went back and used all that 150 gold to buy their pink wards, to fit those wards in, to now start to control that game as early as possible. So that turret going down bought them more vision. They didn't try to go for items on them.
Interesting difference in builds between the two AD carries. Uzi went for the boots early. He wants to get that mobility around that bottom lane, while we see the Phage going towards that standard Trinity 4 star for Piglet.
And Vayne play is all about mobility. It's very likely we'll see a Blade of the Ruin King next by Uzi, but this mid lane is the focus for SKT. They need to get Faker going on this Gragas.
One more time onto Whites. He does not have that flash up. It looks like he does get a good shockwave down, but it looks like coming from the backside could be at least the savior on the assist. Godlike very hurt. Tabe getting hit up in the bottom lane.
Tabe in all sorts of trouble. You can see him being pulled away, but in comes Lucky. Lucky gets in there. Uzi picks up the kill. They're going to try and turn this on towards Piglet, on towards the tower. It's Uzi taking the damage. He uses the barrier, flashes away. Still not on the kill. Lucky gets in there. It's a double kill for Uzi. He gets away from the tower. Coming in though, it's going to be Bengi.
Bengi is just on the outside of the wing. Lucky's trying to be there to ward him off. Does he have the cocoon? Throw it over the wall. Uzi just with the damage.
Absolute cold blood right there by Uzi. Did not flinch when Bengi was coming towards him, and the absolute craziness results in 2 kills for the biggest carry of all, Uzi.
But while that was all happening, let's take stock, because Impact on Jax was left alone in the top turret because that teleport from Godlike came in. He is beating down that turret.
And Godlike cannot let Impact get too far ahead of him. For most of the game, Godlike will be able to withstand Impact's split pushing just because he can reduce Jax's attack speed so much. But because the teleport mid lane was wasted by Godlike after Whites died, it makes Impact one step closer.
We'll see what these guys can put out in the top lane. We saw the early buy from Godlike. We'll see if that hurts him here against Impact on Jax. White's getting his blue buff transferred over. Mid laners are going to be able to fend for themselves a little bit, but that blue buff on White's only makes me think that Bengi and Faker are going to want to take it away.
The most interesting thing for me right now is the fact that the 2 superstars of these teams, Uzi and Faker, have both got 2 kills. They've both got going here. That's going to settle the nerves for both these teams. We talked about Faker, how nervous he was going into those semi-finals. 2 kills at the start, that's going to help.
And especially on Gragas, which is a champion that he actually lost with so far at the World Finals and has struggled against. Cannot say enough about how that last pick Gragas from the red side may actually be paying off for SKT. Faker does seem to be completely on his game right now. He was down in farm early to Whites, but because of the 2 kills and the even farm now, Faker's going to look to roam and destroy Uzi.
Does have his blue buff as well. The big man is also an assassin. It looks like they're going to put 4 strong towards the bottom lane. That Lucky, his spidey sense is tingling, but I don't know if it's going to be too little too late.
Ooh, this is extremely dangerous. Uzi is getting very low, and Faker is ready to go.
Explosive cask is ready. We can see him getting hooked in. Sabi does get the crescendo off, but immediately he is going to go down, and now Uzi's in trouble. Can he get 1 kill? No, he can't. It's going to be 2 for SKT.
So SKT beat RYL to the punch there. There was no counter gank arriving from Lucky, and now it's completely on RYL's other lanes to push and punish SKT for committing 4 people, since they right now got 2 kills for no full turret traded back.
Really first-class use of transition and the abilities that you know are on cooldown. The teleport was just used kind of haphazardly in mid as Whites went down. They knew that wasn't an issue. They know it's not going to be an issue, so they get Dragon as well.
That roam has completely swung the game in SKT's favor. After losing the first turret, they were able to get it back, plus the Dragon, plus even more kills onto Faker. That could not have went better for SKT.
Swings the gold, swings the advantage. Impact starting to build up that CS lead.
comes-
Do see in the middle, there's going to be a catch on towards Piglet. It's the ball delivery system. Is it going to be enough damage to go down? It surely will be. And it's Whites finally getting his first kill.
If you let RYL dive you, they will. Piglet wasn't even in the turret, but they knew he had no flash up. They only had to chase past the Valkyrie, and they also knew, since the rest of SKT had just finished the bottom turret, that there was no support coming for Piglet, which allowed RYL the freedom to just dive at will.
So we got so much of that split push going on in the bottom lane. The top laner is still duking it out between Godlike and Impact, but we just saw Godlike making himself known. The teleport was down, but he still felt he could make the walk towards mid lane. It counts for Whites. Still down by 2,000 gold right now. RYL is looking to keep the pressure on. Right now, they're waiting for that teleport and the Malphite to come back up on the ult.
And right now, RYL's general strategy of pushing all the lanes might be backfiring because they don't have enough pressure.
Oh, Tabby in all sorts of trouble here, trying to get away from this one. He pulls in Piglet. Piglet picks himself up. The easiest kill he'll get of the game.
And every lane is getting punished for RYL right now because Godlike cannot push up against Impact, and Faker's destroying Whites.
There it is again, one after the other. We've seen Gragas in this competition flash body slam, and it only means that you're more comfortable on that champion. You'll do it over and over.
Dominant stuff from SK Telecom in game 1. They have put themselves in a commanding lead. That's going to be the turret going down. There's nothing they can do to stop Impact, and Impact now is going to look at turning this on towards Godlike. Faker pushing, punishing that mid turret. Bengi coming around, safeguard, bottom lane being shoved in. SKT in full control now.
Yes, this game is very dangerous to being almost over for RYL because they rely on objective control. Their semi-final Game 4 win against Fnatic, they were down 16 kills at one point in that Game 4, but because they had turret control and dragon control, RYL was able to come out on top. But when they lose their lane dominance, and they are now down 3 turrets to 1 with no dragon, they don't have that much to come back with. Right now, RYL needs to find ways of forcing 5v5 team fights, but because they don't have something to deal with Impact, they can't actually get all 5 people there without sacrificing even more objectives.
It's going to be very big and a very big job for Uzi to come through here. He got those 2 kills early, but you still can't use a Vayne right away. The damage won't be there. Got the Bilgewater, looking for the Blade of the Rune King soon, but those Sheens both have just came out, and it already came out around 8 minutes onto Piglet. So their spike in damage is huge right now for those team fights.
Double Trinity Force almost complete. Things already picked up by Faker pretty early on, which means he's going to work in towards that next item. White's desperately falling behind while he's keeping up with in terms of farm. Those 4-0-1 for Faker is a huge score. And you can see in terms of gold, massive numbers already.
And I think we really have to touch on this Orianna versus Gragas matchup because RYL is pretty much the team that likes to rely on counterpicks the most, and they were very adamant about saying Gragas beats Orianna. They didn't care if Faker got Orianna because they'd be able to take Gragas. Yet, with the red side Game 1 strategy of SKT, giving Orianna up to RYL, I think it just baited Whites into picking it. So much confidence in himself, not enough respect for Faker's Gragas, and that is really a key moment in this game.
We'll see what SKT can do down. Looking to pinch down now on the jungle of RYL as they make their way down mid. You see the rotation up here from Uzi and Tabe as well, but I don't think they're going to get too far. SKT is already trying to cut them off.
They're trying to catch out Tabe, flash crescendo, teleport coming in, they're going to get on Faker, Faker goes down! Oh no, disaster though! The shutdown gold goes to Tabe!
And RYL needs to continue this chase. That was their 5v5, but they only got 1 kill. And what do they have left? That used all their initiation ultimates except for the Shockwave from Orianna, and they're gonna look to dive because they are hopelessly behind right here. See if they can get it against 3.
The unfortunate love for damage in the bottom lane is the Ignite. Takes the kill for Tabe. The Shockwave goes down, and they hook in Godlike.
They're going in for Mandu as well. They're going to try and take this one around. Bengi comes in. Cataclysm in there. Piglet gets 1. Piglet gets 2. Can they turn it around? It's going big. Godlike trying to get away from this one. One more hit will do it. And Lucky and Mandu duking it out, looking down the river. Godlike's in trouble, but Piglet's going to fight Lucky. There we go. And look what's happening in that top lane. Bam! There's another turret.
So that's the risk Royal runs every time they group up, is not only the split push from Impact, but the AoE damage from Piglet's completed Trinity Force. Watch how they overcommit for Bengi, and Piglet shreds. His Gatling gun, his Phosphorus Bomb, and the big one hits all 3 people that were diving there for Royal. It means they can't commit the rest of this turret dive. Bengi actually put down an ultimate right at the end just to try and trap a bit, and it just meant that Royal's dive went awry.
That was one of those everybody following the call, and they were trying to do what they could. They see 8-5 on the scoreboard now and a 5,000 gold lead. Last time we looked at these turrets just a few minutes ago, it was 1-1. SKT has now dropped 3 more turrets in their favor. All the outer tier is gone, and they've already gotten a second tier turret in that top lane, which Impact doesn't look like he's going to be leaving anytime soon after they re-engage their split.
Serious problems here for Royal. They need to win the next team fight, and that could be coming in 20 seconds time. We see that Dragon will be up. White is getting that blue buff, and everybody's going to be ready. This could be our first 5v5 engage.
But the thing is, when SK Telecom takes mid-game Dragons, they don't let you contest it. They overward your jungle, and they dive you when you get close.
Very nice. Uzi getting hit up. Oh, he gets blasted away. I don't think there's catch potential on this.
Very, very lucky to catch the explosive cast just as he flashed, which knocked him away. So he made Faker look worse than he actually was. He performed it perfectly as they fly in towards the Dragon Pit.
As we saw, everybody gets to jump all over that wall. That's the way SK Telecom is playing right now. Once Godlike showed himself as Malphite in the top lane without teleport up, it was a dragon for SKT since they'd already taken Uzi out of the fight, and at best it was a 3-man steal attempt by Royal, which would have been suicide.
All right, so we're getting our first core items in around the board. That was actually a 14-minute Triforce that Piglet put in his hands. We see Impact with his as well, the Sunfire Cape, the Athenes on both sides. So those first items mean that the fight can possibly go in your favor, but right now SKT controlling most of the positioning, meaning the fight is heavily on their side. Taking red, taking blue, the map right now is theirs.
And we know that Royal's strategies over in the LPL in China was Raise the Puppy because that's Uzi's nickname.
Right.
But because their team is so heavily dive-focused, and Impact, Banky, and Faker, all from SKT, can get onto Uzi, it's very hard to raise him because there's a lot of people that are trying to kill him right now, and there's no real way for Royal to protect him safely.
Godlike going aggressive on Mandu here. He does have White coming across with him. Forces that flash out from Mandu. Means Summoner Spell will be down. But once again, Impact in the top lane. Jack's just pushing strong.
Yes, and this is Royal's game. They're going to look to dive, which is now predictable by SKT. SK Telecom already repelled the dive with less people, only because Piglet stayed safe. As long as Piglet is positioned well with these double buffs, a dive would be a disaster for Royal.
SKT themselves just pinged the inhibitor turret. They still have the second tier, but they said everybody group. It's a possibility we may lose this or have to fight. Everybody on the same page right now, it seems, for both teams. There is a ping in the bottom lane that says this wave is going to be big. If we can pressure this, we can get something off it.
Royal trying to set up a sneaky gank there, but instead a bomb comes out from Piglet, spots them all, catches all 4 of them, and says, yeah, we know what you're going to do. We're not foolish. We're not going to run straight headlong in towards that turret like you did on us. And Royal Gaming now, they're in towards a defensive position.
And once SKT gets teams in this position, they are extremely comfortable. The best thing that SKT has done is starve people out once they get leads. They're not going to look to overcommit until they can get a clean fight, or they're going to wait for Royal to commit in the engage back at them. SKT is the best in the world at this type of game.
And Godlike is really what they're banking on here. Look at how far they are forced to play back on this turret. The thresh hooks, the barrels, Jax can jump in. Impact doesn't care. He'll fight under the turret. Corki bombs. Royal can't even stop the siege coming in on this turret.
Yeah, right now they are trying their best to just keep them away. Finally another wave of minions comes in, and SKT get a couple of hits in it. Once again, Godlike getting in their faces, trying to keep them away, but There's just simply not the damage to repel them. Those barrels keep on rolling through, and every time Jax gets on that turret, along with Piglet, they knock it down
just
another
flexing
notch.
their muscles.
Yeah, that was actually a Gragas ultimate just for the harass. We've seen so many Gragases in the World Championships do that. It pushes 2 people back because Royal was too low, and it means SKT gets their 5th turret of the game.
Looking very dangerous, but they do still have the Malphite. They have the Vayne. They can get that to the late game initiation. Whites can play the protect game on that, but it's so easy to say, but so hard to do at this point, especially with SKT in the driver's seat. Piglet grabbing up buffs for himself as well. This bottom turret still not going down, and really 1 turret to the name of Royal still. That's the top one that went down very early.
Yeah, big power coming out again. It is going to be the Rabadon's death cap completed by Faker, so he is going to be looking to wreck someone's day the moment he gets back into lane. So much so he could actually probably take Tabe down with 2 barrels. I think he'd be just dropping straight away. Middle turret again, being defended cleanly. They know where Royal are focusing, but they just can't get to it. It's 5-1 in turrets rip.
Yeah, that last turret, or the first turret I should say, for Royal went down at 5 minutes, 16 minutes ago. Since then, every 3 minutes, SKT has found an objective after the fight or after a dragon. They're continuously moving off of their engagements.
Here's the situation right now in this game, because SKT has stopped Royals early, and now Royal is forced into trying to catch fights. Every time they miss, they fall farther and farther behind, because Impact is still farming in that lane, and since Godlike neglected so much farm earlier, he can't stop that. So Royal's only option is to try a 4v5, but because SKT has so much disengage, they are dodging it time after time, and they are wearing out Royal's engagements.
Yeah, Tabe trying to create that situation, flash for flash, missing out, ultimate burn, which means, again, SK Telecom are going to know their timer on that. They're going to turn it around. Impact's been pushing that top lane the whole time. And sure enough, they're going to go in and steal away that blue buff.
Everything that's happening here, it's like the bigger blitz hand being down. It makes the lane safer. You just saw Crescendo, you just saw Teleport. Everything becomes a little safer. The map is even more yours. They can engage on this. They have no vision in the mid lane, but they will know they're rotating soon. SKT just knows they can flex their muscles right now.
Oh, coming right back.
There's Impact. Coming straight back in. Impact does go down. It's Uzi that gets the kill, and he will be the killing blow on Impact. That's how you stop a Jax.
Yeah, and we can see how lethal this Royal team composition could be if they weren't so far behind, because catches like that would give them the freedom to dive. But now, because there's way too many damage threats that have adequate farm on SKT, even with Impact down, Faker could shred and Piglet could destroy Royal if they tried to fight 5v4. So the kill is nice, but it doesn't give them anything back that they need.
They put quite a bit of eggs in one basket for that kill as well. The unstoppable force being down now, something they somewhat need to stop the siege. Continuously pressuring back. So we're waiting now for Tabe's Crescendo to come up. The flash probably won't be there for the next engage. SKT looks to force this one too strong, now sitting 6,000 plus gold in the lead. The turrets have slowed down now that they actually met the front door, but I'm sure they'll be able to get past this with Royal being so much on their heels and trying to piece together items that they really haven't hit their second core yet.
Yeah, complete map control. That's the blue buff, the red buff and the blue buff taken away from the jungle of Royal. They have complete dominance. Just look at the ward control across the map. You can see SKT have full vision of everything that Royal are doing. That's why they're going to get themselves another easy dragon.
And you can specifically see how many wards SKT has in the Baron area. We're about 24 minutes into the game now, and since the turret pushing has slowed down for SKT, it means the Baron is the next objective for them. They're going to try and get the Baron or a team fight before the Baron, and then use that advantage to crack the inhibitor wall of Royal. Royal is desperately trying to get back some of that map control right now because they've seen SKT starve teams out at Baron before. If Royal tries to move up and gets caught in a brush, so many times against SKT you see someone say, oh, why did they face check against them? It's because they had to. Yep. SKT forces them into those situations by putting enough pink wards down in the enemy jungle and making you check, because if you don't check, you're giving the game to SKT.
And I'm sure SKT also has the inkling in the back of their head that Royal went for multiple 20-minute Barons, although it's very dangerous. They were able to put themselves in that position. Now SKT has done such. The warding, as you said, Jap, pretty much uncontested now because of that.
And here's the most interesting part about this Baron jump in. Everyone came in through the back of the pit, and since Royal's been turtled in their base for so long,
they put a question mark on it.
They never had the time to move in. And here's the face check.
Straight into it. Tabe uses the Crescendo. It may buy them time. It's not going to buy Lucky anything. Flashes away from this one. They have disengaged so far. Royal are looking to engage.
I don't know, Lucky's looking to run on this one. Godlike coming in from behind. It didn't get another one, but the shockwave delivery. They go in for the fight. Bengi falls, impacts in the back, but he takes 3 volts quick. Lucky follows going down, and it looks like Godlike will pursue, but no, can't get the shard out, doesn't take the movement speed. They get a bit of their own disengage on, and Pumandu will say it's over.
Hey, they got the Baron buff off 2 people, but they still lost 2 people of their own, and now they have to defend 3v3 against the Baron regen. Faker is looking to play.
He has got explosive cast coming up in a couple of seconds, which is why you can see him start trying to create something. Shockwave's a long way off, as is Uzi's ultimate. That's why SKT starting to try and push in. I don't think they can get towards his turret, though. You can see everybody backing away, but it's a 3-man defense. It should be enough.
It will be quite difficult, though, because the range clear right now. Whites has to come up, and it's dangerous.
Godlike's in the fray. He gets taken out quite quick. 1, 2, 3. The health bar says 0, and they make their way out with another kill. 5, 2, and 3 coming out.
Godlike definitely overstayed his welcome there. He did not need to be up that far because Whites was on the way to clear the turret. Let's take a look at the fight beforehand, though. RYL got a clean enough initiation, and you can see the rest of SKT was scattered looking for Lucky, which is why they decided to initiate. That was a temporary 4v3, and they got a clean initiation onto 2, which is why they were able to clean to get those kills. Faker came in late, Piglet was scared of the initiation, and it's why RYL didn't get devastated in that fight against a Baroned up, heavy lead SKT.
Oh, they're going to catch on towards Faker. The damage is coming in. Is it going to be enough? No, he flashes away. There's no Ignite burning on him. Now Uzi's in trouble. He gets caught out by Faker's Cataclysm. RYL's going to get focused in. He will not get out of this one.
Gonna drop down, doesn't even get the chance, tries to go to the backside. Piglet takes him out, and they move up, don't get the turret.
It's unbelievable that we're 27 minutes into a RYL game and they have not killed that middle turret. They took 3 outer turrets in every game before the other team in all of their matches. So RYL definitely not winning the turret game here, and it's because their lanes just didn't work out for them, knowing that they got Malphite against Jax, and Faker just beat Whites in that matchup.
See Godlike get into that position where he doesn't take too much, although it is going on to Pumandu here. He can get some harass out himself. He is getting himself a Spectral Cowl now because he has to take into consideration the magic damage from both Piglet and Impact on Corki and Jax.
Yeah, some big problems. And, you know, we saw Godlike Orisa also earlier, thinking he was the big tank, went up in there. Faker and Piglet just shredded him down. He cannot go up against him right now, even though he is the main stopping force. He wants to get in and interrupt. And actually, looking back at that replay, Piglet was just a centimeter off being caught by the unstoppable force and Shockwave. Yeah. That was a tight fight still.
The thing is, even if that landed, RYL wouldn't have been able to take any objectives off of it. If we look at the positioning of where the fights are happening, it's always in RYL territory, and it's never a dangerous fight for SK Telecom to engage in, even with this red buff invade. If they get caught, it's a kill. Maybe it's about 1% back in your gold lead, but it's not game-breaking. Whereas if SKT catches Uzi looking in a brush in the wrong way, they may as well get an inhibitor.
And I think Piglet has taken the same thing into consideration, knowing the shockwave, that percent damage, and that unstoppable force that are coming straight at him, builds himself a Guardian Angel, knowing he can be the focus of a fight. Faker now coming into the front line here with Blue. They gather together, leaving Impact in the bottom lane, and they're not even spreading themselves out thin here, being completely in the driver's seat.
Absolutely, an Impact now on a mission. He's a machine. He's got that Blade of the Rune King completed. He's just chewing through the minions and straight on towards that tower. The tower will not last long. And RYL can't even contest this one.
He's not even bothering to let the minions tank at the start of this. He wanted to get the jump on it, and that turret is far too dangerous for RYL to contest. Maybe on the next one, but it's going to be a difficult siege hold against this SKT foe.
Double Triforce spells bad news for a turret. Looks like they're going to move on to the inhibitor now. This will be one of the first. The siege has been pretty unstoppable from these guys. Right now they go for damage poke. They want the fight. They're not even really going for the turret. It's always the 1-2, the hook. Can they get the cast? Oh, the unstoppable force, and they go into the fight.
They're going in for Faker. They do go into the crescendo, but they haven't got him down yet. He's going to run away from this one. Will finally get caught out, but it's the depth of the RYL Gaming getting caught out completely. They're just dropping like flies.
Just a clean ace right there by RYL. It was a scattered fight right there because SKT got initiated on, and they were fine with that. SKT set up a smart siege. Faker was not instantly bursted, so even though he died, he got off all of his spells, and this looks like a clean Game 1 win for SK Telecom T1.
Coming in strong. They did have the fights in their favor. They took the gold lead right away. Even after losing a 5-minute turret, they take down the Nexus turrets at 30 minutes.
So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Game 1 of the World Finals is going to SK Telecom T1. Full control, for the Korean team coming into this matchup. And really, that was a dominant performance. They chose that red side. They won.
We saw a big smile there on Faker's face because he did not have the strongest semifinals. He was definitely nervous coming into the Galen Center. But now, on an even bigger stage, in front of a sold-out Staples crowd for the World Finals, he picks his matchup later, dominates Whites, and is a key point in SKT's Game 1 victory.
You know, we said that Gragas was probably the most problems that Faker had on a champion, if he can have problems on a champion. But Bengi came in, burned the Flash, killed Whites, came back, Flash was down, killed Whites, got the Malphite ult out of the top lane, and they were able to continuously work those windows.
And I think one of the scariest things now moving into the next game is the fact that RYL got mostly what they've been winning with so far at the World Championships. Aside from the top lane Malphite, which was a little bit off-center for them, they're going to have to switch things up going into Game 2 and the rest of this series.
Well, it was a clean start for both superstars, but it was Faker that came out on top. Let's send it over to Quickshot and the guys at the analyst desk for a breakdown of SKT's Game 1 win.
Thank you very much, D-Man, and what a game it was. It started off incredibly dramatic and action-packed. I want to start with the picks and bans because I felt like, RYL made it very clear they were targeting Bengi's champion pool. Bengi just resorted back to that Jarvan, who I personally love him on. It was the champion I associated with him in Champions. What was your take on picks and bans?
In picks and bans here, I think SK Telecom had a big edge right from the get-go because we had a situation develop where SK Telecom picked Jax. So you're talking about one of the strongest split pushers in the game. And they waited for that Faker pick until last. And why I love this is they set up an extremely strong 4-1 split because they had so much disengage. So RYL, they know how RYL plays. In fact, these guys, I think, scrimmed 23 times and SK Telecom went 20-3 against them. So they know how they play. So you know that RYL's going to 5-man dive you if you see them, if they're going up against the split push. What do? Huge amounts of disengage, huge amounts of crowd control to keep them under turret, continually getting hit. And there was really no answer. RYL picked an all-in composition. The Malphite, not as strong against non-auto attack champions as well. It was a little wacky.
So definitely the top lane was a big problem. I think that banning out the Renekton against them is huge because you could see they spent a long time even deciding they didn't know what else to go with up in that top lane. But I have to say, RYL's focus onto Bengi with the bans was what really kind of blew me away there. I was like, why are they banning out? Bengi is not a liability in Champion Select. He plays all of the high priority junglers right now. He can easily play, Jarvan or at least Lee Sin, Vi. But the reason that people thought he was tunneling on Lee Sin before is because he was trying to take that away from Watch in their games versus Naj and Sword. And man, did Bengi just rule this game from the first couple minutes.
And honestly, until very recently, Bengi was not a player that was known for Lee Sin. He was an Elise and Jarvan main. He pulled out the Vi very recently and started drawing bans that way as well. But I mean, I think it's great for SK Telecom that he's able to absorb all these bans because he always has another card to play.
I think Lucky is actually the liability in the jungle over there.
I feel like Doublelift is wanting to get something.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you guys have said. I think Bengi is definitely a contender for just best jungler in the world right now. He's playing so well. Like every one of his movements is so calculated where I feel like Lucky is playing really sloppy. He's playing really reactive. Bengi is the one who initiated the game-turning moment. He went to 4v2 dive bottom lane. They killed Uzi and Tabe and took the tower and then took Dragon off of it. That was a Faker and Bengi-initiated play.
Let's actually talk about this a little bit because we've really, we've gone from the picks and bans and we've been highlighting now Bengi because he was so heavily targeted and he still had a very big impact. But the early game basically decided this matchup. We did see RYL getting the first tower. They got some kills under their belt, but my word, did Faker play well. And some of the rotations, I think, Crepa, you had some thoughts.
I actually want to go back a little bit earlier than that because the way they played the early game from RYL was really impressive. They managed to hide in their jungle, don't give any entrance to SKTT1, allowed them to actually dodge the 2v1 matchup, put Malphite against Cookie and Fresh, and as we saw, Piglet and Pumandu, they couldn't get him down, they couldn't get him poked down. Eventually, Malphite got too much wave clear. They were even taking tower shots. I saw at least like 3 or 4 tower shots on Piglet and Pumandu. At the same time, on top lane, Uzi and Tabe, as a Sona and a Vayne, were out pushing and out poking a Jax Jarvan combo. That's a very lethal combo. I props to them for doing that. Then Lucky joined in. Ideal 3v1 push, like all went really well. In the middle lane, Faker was getting out CS'd. He was down 10 CS on the first 4 waves. But then, that's what everybody's talking about. Bengi Faker synergy comes in. Fakers opens up with a body slam, transitions that with his flash, key signature move for Gragas players this tournament. Flashing mid body slam, catching your opponent off guard. not allow them to flash out. Instant combo from Jarvan. Barrel to finish it off. Beautiful play.
I'm really glad you brought that up because everyone's talking about, oh yeah, Faker played this matchup really well, but where's the jungler credit? Bangy got the first blood. He got him the first blood, and then a repeat gank before the flash is back up again. Bangy's the one, he deserves the credit for that.
To be fair, that ties in with what Double Lift said. Okay, it's a favorable matchup. Orianna does really well early, but 10 CS up and complete wave control. If Bangy was not there to help Faker, this game could have gotten a lot different.
And for me, really the watershed moment of this game here was that rotation into the bot lane, the 4v2 dive that allowed them to take the dragon and really control this game. And there are certain times when losing that early tower can actually be beneficial to you if you play it out right. Teams where we saw the hard push up to the first tower, and that left an entire lane. And even though Malphite, has this teleport, he had to push it all the way back in order to put that map pressure back up. And that allowed Impact to move into mid, and then Faker and Bengi to go down to the bottom lane. So they made something out of that, which is what you see from the best teams in the world. Perceived disadvantages, they use the map so well. What a clean rotation, and that's always what we give a lot of credit to SK Telecom for.
Yeah, one thing I don't want to see change from this game to the next is how aggressive Uzi is. This guy, he played Vayne, which is an incredibly squishy, low base HP champion, and he's not afraid to flash forward and just dive everyone by himself and just be like, my team needs to follow up, like, go, 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 go. I hope like a loss doesn't discourage you, because I know that White specifically is a really emotional player. You could tell after his first death that he got kind of like, rattled, and he died again, and then he just kind of sat and didn't do anything. He let his tower fall, he let Faker out roam him, and those are things that you can really easily prevent by just good communication, not going on tilt.
We actually still remember that play on the bot lane where Uzi just tumbled past the tower, reset tower echo, went back in, flashed out in the last shot, and then just stood in the brush, just teleport out. Like, didn't care.
Nerves of steel.
But I have to ask you, Peter, because you predicted White to go over Faker in this laning phase, and this was really reminding me of that Xmithy over Dandy prediction that he made as well.
Hang on a second. To be fair, it wasn't 1v1.
It wasn't Faker, it was Faker and Bengi.
Bengi was there as well. I'm just highlighting that really quickly.
In a 1v1 setting, White did make Faker base at 16 CS, and White had like 32 CS, so he was doing really well in 1v1.
That's probably why they banned 2 junglers there, because Bengi has been destroying them.
It's also just the matchup, though, right? It's Gragas' job to live until 6 and then all in at 6, and that's really where the power comes from.
Very final word, Crepo.
Big disappointment for me this game was the misuse of Malphite teleport. As we said, good rotations, but against somebody with a teleport, they should be forcing rotations, and they should never be losing dragons. And 3 out of 3 dragons for SKT1. Really impressive.
For the American audience, I felt like Malphite came out of left field and didn't really have an impact. All right, guys, we're going to take a very quick break, but when we return, it is Game 2 between RYL Club and SK Telecom T1, the Season 3 World Championship. We'll be right back.